Ever open your fridge, see those pricey apples turning soft, and think, there goes another few dollars in the trash? Grocery bills climb higher every month. And if the power goes out, well, there goes the fruit too. Amish families in Pennsylvania and Ohio don't worry about that one bit. They've been keeping fruit fresh for 10, even 20 years, all without a single plug or freezer humming. And the best part, their tricks are simple enough for anyone's kitchen table. They've been sun-drying apple slices since the 1800s. It's as simple as slicing them thin, laying them on a mesh screen, and letting the warm air do the work for a couple of days. No fancy machines, no electric bill ticking away. Turn them once or twice, and they'll dry up into sweet, chewy slices that last for years when sealed in jars. Think about it, you'd spend $7 for a little bag of dried apples at the store, but a basket of backyard apples and a sunny porch can save you $100 over a season. And if standing over a counter wears you down, sit while slicing, it works just as well. Sweet, easy, and your pantry's smiling. Back in Lancaster kitchens, you'd hear the clink of jars and smell peaches bubbling in sugar syrup every August. Families have canned this way for generations, long before refrigerators rolled in. The trick is a simple water bath method. Peel your peaches, tuck them into clean jars, and cover with a light syrup, half sugar, half water. Then boil the sealed jars in hot water, and that's it. No humming machines, no freezer space, just jars cooling on a towel, ready for the cellar. My neighbor in Holmes County swears by adding a spoon of honey for flavor if sugar's short. Store-bought canned peaches? They'll run you $3 a jar and half the flavor. This way, a $20 bushel turns into a pantry shelf stacked high, saving hundreds. And here's the comfort part. Open one of those jars in January, spoon peaches over biscuits, and it feels just like summer walked back in your kitchen. Unlike those glossy jars of jelly from the supermarket, Amish families sometimes ferment their berries instead, turning them into a tangy mash that lasts months without a fridge. Strawberries, blueberries, even raspberries, just crush them up, sprinkle a little salt, maybe a touch of honey, and let the jar sit a few days in a cool corner. The natural bubbles kick in, and what you get is a spread with zing, not sugar overload. It's old-world flavor, and it happens to be good for your gut too. I heard an older woman in Lancaster laugh once, saying her kids grew up on this stuff before gut health was even a term. Store-bought spreads full of corn syrup. They'll cost you $4 a pop. Homemade Amish-style mash saves you $30 a year easy, and the taste, well, you can't buy that kind of freshness. Smear it on bread, stir it into oatmeal. It's simple living at its best. When pears ripen, they don't mess around. They go from firm to mush almost overnight. That's where the Amish pull out their sugar syrup trick. Back in Lancaster, families simmer a light syrup, just sugar and water, then tuck peeled pear halves right into it before sealing the jars. The syrup keeps the pears tender but not spoiled, almost like they're floating in sweetness. A cellar shelf can hold those jars for years, and come February, you've got pears ready for cobblers or even just straight from the jar with a spoon. Compare that to store-bought, $4 a can, and it won't taste half as clean. One fall's worth of pears can turn into shelves of sunshine, and it's a whole lot cheaper than letting them rot in a fruit bowl. Back in Holmes County, I heard an old farmer laugh about how his kids used to sneak strips of dried cherries from the kitchen window. Amish families pit the cherries, slice them into halves or strips, and spread them thin on wooden trays. A few days of warm air and turning by hand, and you've got chewy, tangy cherry bites that'll outlast candy by a decade. Some Amish even roll the dried strips in a touch of sugar before storing them in jars, almost like homemade licorice. The kicker: a bag of dried cherries from a supermarket will run you $12 easy. Dumb Amish style, and a single tree's harvest can fill half your pantry for pennies. Sweet, thrifty, and it carries a memory of summer with every bite. Unlike shelf jams from the store that taste more like corn syrup than fruit, Amish apple butter is the real deal, and it keeps for years without needing a fridge. The trick is patience. Apples slow cook down with a little sugar or cinnamon, Maybe a touch of clove, stirred until it's thick as velvet. Families in Ohio used to make this in big copper kettles outdoors, kids running around while the apples bubbled for hours. Today, you can do it on a stovetop just the same. Once sealed in jars, it'll sit happy in a cellar for a decade or more. Grocery shelves sell apple butter for $6 a jar, but it won't hold a candle to the depth of flavor you get simmering it yourself. Spread on toast, dolloped on biscuits, or spoon into oatmeal, it's comfort food that also saves you a good $100 a season. Ever have plums ripen all at once and start splitting on the counter? Feels like you've got hours before they're spoiled. Amish families don't panic, they pickle them. The trick's simple. Plums go into a jar with apple cider vinegar, sugar, and a pinch of spice, cloves or cinnamon sticks if you like. Seal it, let it sit, and you've got a tangy sweet plum that lasts for years in the cellar. Come winter, these pickled plums are perfect alongside roasted meat or just as a snack right out of the jar. Store-bought pickled fruit? Rare to even find, and if you do, it'll cost you $6 or $7 a jar. With this Amish trick, a single basket of plums stretches into shelf-stable, flavorful bites that keep your harvest from going to waste. Back in Lancaster, Amish didn't need fancy crisper drawers. They had root cellars. Apples were stacked carefully, stem side down, in wooden crates or even straw-lined barrels, each one wrapped or spaced so they wouldn't bruise. The cellar's cool, steady air keeps them firm for months, even years if handled right. My grandmother used to say you could eat last year's apple, while this year's blossoms were already on the trees. The key is discipline. Check for soft ones and pull them before they spoil the bunch. Compare that to buying apples in January at $2 a pound, when yours are sitting safe downstairs, free and waiting. It's old-fashioned storage that still beats a refrigerator hands down. Unlike supermarket jams loaded with corn syrup, Amish kitchens often turn to honey for preserving berries. Strawberries, sliced and layered in jars, get covered with raw honey that seeps in, keeping them fresh and bright. The honey not only preserves but adds its own health boost, antibacterial, soothing, sweet without being fake. I once heard an Amish woman in Ohio say her kids grew up eating strawberries and honey every winter, spoon over pancakes or stirred into tea. Store-bought? You'd pay $5 for a little jar of fruit spread, and it wouldn't last half as long. Do it this way, and a few pints of berries become a pantry treasure good for years, with flavor that makes cold mornings taste like June again. When apricots hit their peak, it feels like they all ripen in the same week. Amish families waste none of it. They cut the fruit in half, remove the pit, and lay them out on screens or old-fashioned drying racks. A few days of good air circulation, or a low oven if the weather doesn't cooperate, turns them into chewy golden coins. Stored in jars or cloth bags, they'll last for years without losing their flavor. Bought from the store, dried apricots will run you $10 a bag, and half the time they're coated with preservatives. This way, a tree's worth of fruit becomes dozens of jars, pure and clean. And I'm curious, have you ever tried drying fruit yourself? Drop a note in the comments. It's always fun hearing what works in different kitchens. Back in Holmes County, plenty of families still make jam the way their grandparents did, without pectin packets from the store. Instead, they simmer fruit slowly with sugar and a splash of lemon juice, letting the natural fruit pectin do the thickening. It takes longer, sure, but the flavor is fuller, and the jars will keep sealed in a cellar for a decade or more. I once watched an Amish woman stir raspberry jam in a cast-iron pot, saying, "Time is the secret ingredient." Compare that to modern jam at the supermarket, $1 a jar packed with corn syrup. The Amish way costs pennies and fills your shelves with jars that taste like pure fruit, no shortcuts. And when you spread it on toast in January, it's more than food, it's memory in a jar. Unlike the sugary fruit roll-ups sold at the store, Amish kitchens often make salted fruit leather, a snack that lasts for years. Pureed fruit, apples, peaches, or berries, get spread thin on a tray, sprinkled with just a pinch of salt, and left to dry. The salt draws out moisture and keeps mold away, leaving behind sheets of chewy, tangy fruit. Rolled up and stored in jars, it's both a treat for kids and a travel snack for adults. I remember one Amish farmer chuckling that his children carried strips of fruit leather to school instead of candy bars. Store-bought fruit snacks cost $3 a box and vanish in a day. These? They last a decade, and every bite reminds you of the orchard they came from. Ever buy apples in bulk and watch half of them rot in the fridge drawer? The Amish solve that with barrel storage. In Lancaster, families used to line wooden barrels with straw, then layer apples inside. Firm varieties like Winesap or Jonathan work best. Each layer got more straw, so the fruit never touched and never bruised. The barrels were sealed tight and set in a cellar cool and dark. Done right, apples stored this way could last a full year, crisp as the day they were picked. Compare that to store apples in winter, $2.50 a pound, waxed, and half the flavor gone. Barrel storage costs almost nothing, yet keeps your harvest fresh till next season rolls around. In Amish communities, when peach trees produced more than a cellar could hold, families turned to wax sealing. Peeled peach chunks were packed into jars, then topped with melted beeswax that cooled into a solid lid. No metal bands, no store-bought gadgets, just fruit locked safe under a natural golden seal. Those jars could sit for years, and when the wax was broken, the fragrance of summer peaches filled the kitchen all over again. Store-bought canned fruit will never carry that kind of richness. And for families who keep bees, the wax came free, making this one of the thriftiest and most sustainable preservation tricks still in use today. Unlike the sugary blueberry syrups at the supermarket, Amish families sometimes preserve berries in vinegar. Blueberries, rinsed and packed in jars, get covered with apple cider vinegar, sometimes sweetened lightly with honey. After a few weeks, you've got tangy sweet blueberries that stay good for years. They're not just for snacking either. You can drizzle the vinegar over salads or use the berries in baked goods. It's versatile, it's thrifty, and it's gut-friendly too. Store syrups cost $6 a bottle and spoil fast once opened. This Amish soak? Pennies long-lasting and better for you. And hey, what's your favorite fruit to preserve at home? Share it in the comments. I'd love to see what you're putting up in your pantry. Pears can be tricky. One day they're firm, the next they've gone soft and grainy. Amish families solve that by packing pears in clean, dry sand. Each pear is placed stem side up in a wooden crate, then gently covered with sand so none of them touch. The cool cellar air and the dryness of the sand protect the fruit for months, sometimes even a year. It's an old trick that turns a fragile harvest into steady food for the table. Think of the cost difference. Store pears in the off-season can reach $2 each, while a single tree's fruit, kept this way, feeds a family long past autumn without losing flavor. In Amish kitchens, grapes are often turned into long-lasting snacks by oven drying. The clusters are rinsed, spread on trays, and set in a warm oven at low heat for hours, sometimes overnight. The result is raisins with deeper flavor than anything from a box. These dried grapes keep in jars for a decade or more, perfect for baking or snacking on their own. Children especially enjoy them, and they're far healthier than candy. Store raisins can cost up to $5 a pound, often with additives to keep them fresh. The Amish method? Pure grapes, pennies to make, and flavor that reminds you of sunshine on the vine. Unlike sugary spreads from the supermarket, Amish kitchens sometimes preserve cherries with molasses. The fruit is simmered slowly with a little molasses until it thickens into a rich, dark preserve. The molasses acts as both sweetener and preservative, giving the cherries a depth of flavor that plain sugar can't touch. These preserves keep for years when stored in sealed jars in a cool cellar. Spread on fresh bread or spoon into oatmeal. It's a taste of old-world comfort. Buying cherry preserves at the store can set you back $6 a jar, and they don't come close to this depth of flavor. The Amish method saves money and delivers a preserve that's both practical and unforgettable. When berries or stone fruits are plentiful, Amish kitchens often make jam and store it in a cool cellar rather than a fridge. The jars sit on wooden shelves, surrounded by the steady, cool air that keeps them firm and flavorful for years. The key is patience, letting the fruit cook down slowly, sealing the jars properly, and keeping them in a consistent temperature. Come winter, opening one of these jars feels like capturing a little sunshine from the summer harvest. It's simple, reliable, and lets families enjoy fresh fruit flavors long after picking season. If you've tried storing jams this way, share which fruit worked best for you. Hearing about everyone's pantry experiments is always inspiring. Apples can become something extraordinary when sliced into rings and spiced lightly with cinnamon, nutmeg, or cloves before drying. Amish families often dry these rings on trays or in low ovens, creating a chewy, aromatic treat that can last for years in jars. The spice not only adds flavor, but also helps preserve the fruit. These rings are perfect for snacking, baking, or adding to warm winter drinks, bringing a bit of autumn's aroma indoors. A single batch can transform a harvest into months of enjoyment, saving both money and trips to the store. It's a small, cozy touch that turns ordinary apples into something magical for the family table. Well, that's the word from Amish country. 20 ways to keep your fruit fresh for years without a fridge or high grocery bills. Your pantry can be full, your harvest stretched, and those crisp apples, sweet peaches, and tangy berries ready whenever you want. It's simple, practical, and just a touch magical, turning ordinary fruit into something that lasts well beyond picking season. Open a jar in the middle of winter, and the smell of summer fills the kitchen. If one of these tricks catches your eye, give it a try and share how it goes in the comments. And if you love simple, smart kitchen ideas, tap like or subscribe. Your pantry and wallet will thank you.